It was a Monday morning rush. The downtown high-rise buzzed with early employees, lattes in hand and eyes glued to screens. The elevator doors opened on the ground floor. A man in a wrinkled t-shirt and jeans stepped in. A group of executives inside glanced at him, then looked away. One of them whispered, "Maintenance, wrong elevator." The man stood silently at the corner. As they ascended, someone laughed softly and said, "Guess they'll let anyone in here these days." The elevator reached the 29th floor. The man stepped off first, still quiet. But before noon, those same executives would realize that the man they ignored now owned the entire building they worked in. At reception, the man was asked to wait. "Sir, this is a private floor," the assistant said politely. He nodded and took a seat. Downstairs, the property management team was preparing for a high-level investor meeting. "The buyer wants to inspect everything quietly before we close," one said. Back upstairs, the executives continued their meeting, unaware that a silent observer had just walked into the main conference room. "Excuse me," the assistant said, panicked, running after him, but it was too late. The man looked around the space calmly, then placed a folder on the table. On it, "Full Acquisition Agreement. Final Review." "And the signature line?" Keanu Reeves. A senior executive opened the folder, confused. "This is a joke, right?" the assistant whispered. He's the buyer." Everyone froze. Keanu stood at the head of the table, still silent, then finally said, "This morning, none of you looked at me." "That's fine. I wasn't here to be noticed." The COO swallowed. "Sir, we didn't mean—" Keanu raised a hand gently. "You assumed, and that's the problem." Just then, the building director arrived, out of breath. "Mr. Reeves, we're honored to have you. Please forgive the confusion." Keanu smiled. "No confusion. I already learned everything I needed to before I walked in." And what he did next stunned the entire team. He turned to the director and said, "The deal is still on, but with one condition." The room went quiet. Keanu continued, "I want an entire floor turned into an innovation lab for young creators. No suits, no judgment." The boardroom murmured. An executive objected. "But that's prime space, that's worth millions." Keanu looked at him. "And worth even more when used right." The CEO asked, "Why here?" Keanu replied, "Because this morning, I saw people, judged by their clothes, not their character." He pulled a card from his pocket and placed it on the table. It read, "Sometimes the invisible ones are just observing." And this was only the beginning. The story spread fast. Keanu buys building after being judged in elevator. Man ignored by executives turns out to be the new owner. Employees began whispering in hallways. People who had overlooked him now rushed to greet him. But Keanu never raised his voice, never demanded respect. He visited the janitorial staff, thanked the security team, and sat down in the cafeteria to share lunch with 2 interns. The next day, the executive who laughed in the elevator walked up to him nervously. "I'm sorry," he said. "I was out of line." Keanu smiled and said, "You weren't alone." Then he handed him a book. Its title? The Price of First Impressions. The building was soon buzzing with change. The 30th floor transformed into a creative hub for students and underfunded artists. Keanu showed up every Thursday. No cameras, no press, just to mentor. He listened more than he spoke, observed more than he advised. One afternoon, a student asked him, "Why this building?" Keanu replied, "Because I wanted to see how deep the walls really were." The elevator no longer felt divided. People greeted each other with curiosity, not judgment. Even the executives began joining the workshops, because the top floor now belonged to those who had once been at the bottom, and Keanu still hadn't given his final message. On the lobby wall, beneath the building's name, a new plaque was installed. It read, "Respect everyone, especially when you think you don't have to." No signature, just silence. And yet everyone knew who had written it. Keanu left the building a few months later. But what he planted inside it continued to grow, not in value, but in humanity. If this story challenged how you see people, then subscribe to the channel and you hit the bell icon, because more eye-opening stories are coming. And next time you enter an elevator, look around.